actually changed my title of the talk to having fun with music and Keras, because I think that's what it's all about. Sorry? Oh. So, what's my personal motivation for going to music and doing stuff with it? Well, I play guitar, and when I was playing guitar 20 years ago, I was listening to a CD, trying to figure out what notes were being played, push the rewind button, listen it over again, try it, keep repeating. It took so much effort. I was like, isn't there a computer program that actually can do this for me? Why is there no computer program that can do this for me? But apparently it's very, very difficult. And right now, with deep learning, we are actually getting close to tackling these kind of problems. And so that's my personal motivation for looking into it. So today, what are we going to do? First, we're going to build a simple synthesizer using just NumPy and some Jupyter Notebook enhancements. Then I will explain just a little bit about music theory and come up with a very simple way of generating, well, it sounds musical. It's not the biggest new summer hit of 2018. Let's be fair about it. It's just some music. And then use this generated, so we are going to generate data, and we can use it for deep learning. So there's two benefits. First of all, we are in control of our own complexity. So we can make the sounds more distinct or more similar. But also we can, we have also an unlimited data set. We can just keep on iterating, and we know what the ground truth is. So we don't have the effort of labeling our data, or that's all being taken care of. So that's why we take this approach. And also, it's way more fun this way, because then we can build some synthesizers in NumPy. So what are we going to do with on the deep learning part? So on synthesized music, I will single out a single instrument when multiple synthesizers are playing together. So just filtering it out. Then the second thing that I will be covering is detect what notes are being played, first for a single instrument, and then when instruments are playing together, and when there are multiple notes being played by the same instrument. And then finally, I will extend that model with multiple notes. And I also have I couldn't resist doing one real-world example where I've taken a backing track, played some guitar on it, and tried to to have a detector when I'm playing or not. Okay, so let's first make some with this. Is this readable? Should I make it a bit bigger? So first, let's have a look at what is music actually. So I've loaded here some data, and if you look at the data, it just consists of the raw data is just integers. And what do these integers represent? The integers actually represent how far the speaker is going to move left or right. So since the integers have a specific resolution, so right now they're 16-bit integers, and I'm going to scale them between -1 and 1, being all the way to one end and all the way to the other end for the speaker. Well, if we look at the shape, it's just one big array, one-dimensional array, because it's mono. If it was stereo, you have like multiple channels over here. Then we also get another quantity back, and that's called the sample rate. And that basically tells you how many samples are there per second. So there's this like, with normal CD quality music, we have 44 kilohertz, and that means you have 44,000 samples per second. So we have this. So if we would have 44,000 of these numbers, we would have 1 second of music. So we can plot them. It looks like this. This is for a whole piece of music. On the x-axis, you have the time in seconds. So there's an intro over here, some bunch of music over here, and then finally some intermediate part and the outro. Now, let's just zoom in a bit. And there's this very nice IPython display widget where you can just put in any array and just listen to it. It automatically also scales it to -1, 1, so you don't necessarily have to do it. And then let's hope this all works. So this is now what you find here below. Okay, that's it. If we're going to zoom in a bit, I'm just going to explain you how difficult music is. Then we find something like this. That's all encoded in this part of music. If we zoom in slightly more, then this you should reconstruct from this mess of stuff over there. That's really a difficult signal, basically. If you look at, so now we are going to make a simple synthesizer, right? We're going to make some own music. So let's start with a sine generator. Sine is just the simplest periodic signal that we can think of. So we start doing it in a data frame. We have some time. We sample it with the sample rate, and we're going to compute the sine of it every time step. Let's do it. Then we get this kind of big blob. Then if we zoom in, we see actually the sine back. And there's also a nice thing with, there's a method called Fourier. And actually, what Fourier does is it takes this signal, this signal, and it will determine what frequencies are present in the signal. So in this case, I've made a sine with 440 hertz. You can actually see, if we make a spectral representation for it, we see actually one big line of this 440 hertz. We can also listen to it, so let's do it. Not the most pleasant sound, but that's a sine. It's not very musical at this point. So let's put an envelope on it. Huh? So let's have an exponential decay of this sine wave. How does that sound? Already slightly better. Then let's add some multiple sines together. The nice thing about tones is if I have a sine of some frequency, I can add another sine of twice the frequency or 3 times the frequency, and it will still sound as the original sine that I had. The same tone will still be perceived, but it sounds different. It has a different sort of timbre or a different feel. It's more bright, but it doesn't change the perception of the pitch. So let's try that out. So I've now again added. So here I'm just adding a couple of sines together, like 440 hertz, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, with some different random amplitudes that I've put in. I'm going to, this is then the thing that we generate. In spectral, we see actually the lines coming back, and then how does it sound? So it's still, and if you look at the, so this is still the same pitch, right? So if we go back, it's the same pitch, right? Although we have added a lot of extra frequencies to it. So what we also can do, I've added over here, what we also can do is we can also just give the sines random phases. So what I've done over here is I've added the sines together with all phase 0. Then I did some random phases. So the shape is completely different, right? Will they still sound the same, do you think?
Sort of.
Sorry?
Sort of.
Sort of. Well, it's a bit late, this thing. This one. Do you hear a difference? It's exactly the same. So your ear is completely, cannot hear the difference between this part and this part. So already when you're doing deep learning things and you're looking at RMSEs and stuff like that, you have to take into account that the RMSE might not be a very good quantity for comparing signals with each other. Well, let's add some decay on the additive sound. Let's do that. We have something that could, it's a very simple electrical piano, or maybe a harp, or it's not very beautiful, but I can play something with it. Now let's have just as a side track, let's do some drums. So here I'm taking, I'm I'm slowly going to doing 1 over the inverse of so the frequencies gets much lower as we go on. And also I'm going to add some exponential decay. Let's listen to that. This one. We have a drum kick. Then for the snare, I'm going to build a snare from a drum kick plus a bit of noise. So noise, I'm sorry, but we're going to listen to noise. That's noise. And if I add some, so the kick and a very short bit of the noise together, we have something that's like a snare drum. So well, you can do a lot of cool things with just simple things, combining simple things. There's another thing that's called subtractive synthesis. It actually starts with building a very rich waveform, like a square wave has a lot of frequencies in it. It has so it's very frequency rich, and then you actually cut out some frequencies in order to make it again nicely sounding. So this is it's like a Mario computer game. That's without the filtering, and then with the filtering, it sounds like this. So there's a lot of different ways of generating sound. There's also FM synthesis, which is a different way. You can also try to model a complete piano with all the resonances and stuff like that. So it goes on and on. But this is just a very simple way of building it. Okay, let's start make some music. So who knows a bit about music? I'm going to explain it anyway. Okay, that's more, luckily quite a lot. So everyone knows this picture, right, of a piano. Well, actually, there's the nice thing about the white notes are all in the same scale. But I will talk about it a little bit later. So if you look at the notes, every note in modern Western tuning is very easily calculated. So you have just the 12th root of 2 to the power of n, where n is the number of half steps away from some root note. And a half step is like going from this to that to this to that. That's a half step. So if you want to know the frequency of this note, I'll just count back how many I'm away from A4. Say that's this note. Then 1, 2, 3, 4. Add that into this formula, and I can compute all the frequencies of the piano that are there. There are different ways of tuning, but this is the simplest one. So, well, I've created here now a small instrument from the things that we did in the previous notebook. And I can just generate now a note. That's a note. But now let's have a look at a scale. So the scale is basically groups of notes that fit well together. So do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, everyone knows it, right? Well, you can easily... So that's do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. And then we can also make, for every note that is in a scale, you can also make a chord out of it. So you can also do that mathematically. So that's quite easy. So that's... So now we have this kind of rules that govern together which notes sounds musical together. Well, we can just make some random walk in like this scale and then mix it together and try to find out something that fits well together. So, but first I will put a chord progression below it, just to listen to. So I should first say this. I took this chord progression because it's like the most common chord progression in pop music, and I just decided to go for that one again. So you probably all know a song that fits with this, I suppose. So now the notes are just, I'm going to generate some notes on top of this, and this is just going to be a random walk. So, of course, I don't want my notes to sound too high, and I don't want to sound them too low, so I'm going to have a bounded random walk. So whenever I'm going to draw a new note that is above the limit, I'm going to bounce back and go back again. So that's the way I do it. And I'm also going to, so there's a lot of, some probabilities of making the random walk. So I will never stay on the same note. And there's quite a big chance of going to a note that is close to the other note. And there's a smaller note, the smaller chance to making a big step, and so on. I just tuned this a little bit by hand until I thought, okay, this is sort of acceptable. Well, if you take the random walk, and if I just index it with the scale that I put in, I just get a lot of, notes. And then I can just generate those notes and mix it together, and then we get something like this. This can go on like infinite time.
Sounds much better than the summer hit.
Sounds even better, yeah. So, well, let's go. So now that we have this infinite data set, I'm going to the deep learning applications. And the first thing I will do is to filter out the lead instrument. So in the previous sound fragment, I had the chords and the melody. Now I'm going to learn the algorithm to get this melody and regenerate only the melody again. The chords plus melody and go to only the melody. So model is input wave with 3 instruments, output wave with just 1 instrument. And actually, one way of doing it is to do it with autoencoder-like. Who knows what an autoencoder is? Okay, so I will just go quickly over it. An autoencoder is a neural network which goes from an input, like for instance, it took in this case a picture, and the picture will go through a set of layers. Then it will go typically to a layer that has less dimensions than the original layer, and then it will scale back up to the original input size. So you get this picture in, and it has to, so that you train it by giving this picture in and the same picture in as a result that it has to produce again. So then it will learn weights to actually come up with a way of compressing it, such that it makes it also easy to generate it back again. So this is the autoencoder. So one of the things with the autoencoder is like an architecture that has the same input nodes as the output nodes, and you train it with the same input as the output. Well, we can actually do something similar, but instead of using the original and the input the same as the output, we can say, well, I'll take the input, the complete wave with the combined instruments, and as an output, I will just only give it the melody. So this is the input. And this is the output. And this is how we build it. So we start with a model, like a Keras model. Then I'm going to add a dense layer, which is, I should have mentioned that before. The music, music is like a continuous signal, right? It goes on, it goes on, it goes on. So we have to cut it up in some way. So what I did is I cut the music up into small fragments of 1,000 samples, 1,024 actually. And then I would, on this fragment, I would just filter out the lead instrument. So that's what I'm doing, putting in here. So there's 1,024 samples going in. Then I have a a prelude layer, just tried out different things, but this worked best. Then we have another dense layer, so this one is smaller. I took the half of it, and then we're going to scale up again to the original output shape. Trained it on the targets and the outputs, and how does it sound before? It's like this. Should maybe have a bit shorter fragment here. I see people sitting like this, but not so much. So the network still has to learn a lot, right? I must say that actually in generating this part of the music, I'm still putting in the original wave format, but then chopped up in batches of 1024.
Sorry, question. How do you deal with like when the phase is not zero, you're a click?
Yeah. So actually, what I'm doing is I'm taking I'm doing the batched way, and then I'm shifting also half by half, and then I'm counting, adding them together with crossfading. So that's indeed that solves it. So I also will fit this is what's the original title. So actually you can fit a model in 2 epochs. That's it. That's how it looked like. And let's see how it sounds. This is the input. And this is. It can even, so that's it. Is it overfitted? I would probably, if you just have this data set, it's very likely to be overfitted, right? So what I did here is I generated the data set again, so just a totally new data set, and also put in a different type of scale here. So I trained it on a minor scale, and this is a major, no, it's Phrygian harmonic, I believe, Phrygian dominant. So it's a different scale, and let's listen to it. Still a bit of noise left in there. That still needs to if you train it for longer than 2 epochs, you get more. You get better results. And also I can also make the epochs really, really long, of course. Infinite amount of data. So let's go to another part. And that is the note detection. So right now we're going to detect what notes are being played. So here the model is going to be wave in, sequence of detected notes out. So the method will here be, so generate some random music, chop the wave data again in small batches of 1/10 of a second, then use Fourier. Fourier is the way of getting to the frequencies that we saw earlier. And then for each of these batches, we're going to predict what note is being played. Then we're going to write this as a multi-class classification problem. I will show you in more detail later. And then each class is going to be one note that's being played. And I will train it as a gate and recurrent unit as a classifier. So for generating and rendering the data, so what I get is a data frame where I take the original data that the random walk. From the random walk, I will basically make a data frame that looks like this. I have an offset and an AND, and between those two, I have one hot encoded. So basically, well, it's not necessarily one hot, but I've listed what notes are being played in this sequence. Then finally, I'm going to match my batches to one of the offsets ANDs, and then I know, okay, this note's being played or not. So if you look at the Fourier analysis of a waveform, it looks like this. So actually, you can already see here the individual notes. You can see it back for the 1D for the one one instrument. You also see, I don't know if it's very visible, but there's like the same pattern is also repeated above here. And it's like at 3 times the frequency. And that has to do with the extra notes that I showed at the beginning for adding the additional signs to it, to the original note. So setting up the group. So who has ever used a gated recurrent unit before? Who knows a bit about recurrent neural nets? So I'll just quickly go over maybe some short introduction to it. So let's. I will only keep it at a recurrent neural net. So what's recurrent neural net? You start in with some input x, then that will go to a hidden state h, and that will produce an output O. So what you can see is like if you have a sequence of x's, then you will basically update every time the hidden state here. So this one will update it over here, this one will update it over there, and then this will is a very good way of accumulating evidence for a specific feature. You don't. And you can also do this on randomly sized sequences and stuff like that. Yeah, that's what I want to say about it. So I know that I've generated data with only 14 different nodes. I'm using a 14-dimensional state. So that's also the same number of nodes that can be played. So I've put the number of time steps to 1, and I put the RNN stateful, which means that it will keep on remembering what it has seen before. And then finally, I will apply the Fourier before going into it, and I'll show you the dimension, the modeling building over here. So this is the number of channels that there's for a gated recurrent unit. You basically build it up with a number of steps per batch. So you basically chop up your original signal into batches. Then in that batch, you have a number of time steps per batch. And then you have a number of channels, which for typically raw wave files is only 1. But since we are now giving it a Fourier input, it will be actually a lot of frequencies per time step in this case. So we have a slightly more complicated input over here. Then we have the gated recurrent unit. We put at the end a dense layer just for compensating, being able to fit it a bit easier. And then we have input over here. 32 is a batch size, just 1 step per, so 1 Fourier spectrum per time step, 2049 Fourier dimensions, and then our gated recurrent unit. And finally, we have our network predicting which one of these 14 nodes are being played. And we use the categorical cross-entropy for fitting it. So this is fitting it, typically Keras output. And then if we look at the prediction, so if this on the right is what we put in. As a function of time, over here we see what node is being played as a yellow blob, as a punch card basically, and this is what it predicts now. So this is only after just a little bit of fitting. Okay, so this is actually was the easy one. If we, by the way, if we test it, we see that it also still works. I must say that if you train this a lot longer, it starts to look a lot better. And I will do that for this one. We're going to make it a bit harder now. Instead of looking at a single instrument, we're now going to look at the combined, the whole sequence of the music that I displayed earlier. So we're going to add chords and bass instruments. So this is how it sounds. And we're also going to add harmony. So the melody instrument is going to play 2 notes at the same time. So that's the music. This is how the Fourier spectrum now looks like. So this is also what I'm going to offer to my network to fit on. And you can see over here, it's messy, right? It's really messy. It's hard for me to find out what's being played. Although if I look a little bit higher, I can still find the dots there. So the information is still, in a way, it's still there. But it's really hard to find, for instance, to come up with business rules that capture this problem very well. So in this case, I'm still using the same network topology. I think if I look here, I did it half. The time frequency is twice as big. And then let's fit it, get some coffee, and it looks like this. And so this is after a lot of iterations. It's actually, it finds it, as you can see, it finds it back quite well. Every now and then there's still very close to the notes. It's not completely confident. You see over here sometimes, so when it's close to the part where it's really difficult. So if you remember this part, right? That corresponds to this part. So it really has done quite well at that part. Well, okay, if we get a bit of coffee and it looks already this good, what will happen if we train this for one night? It actually does it almost perfectly, I would say. So that's that. Now the final thing is let's do it on the real music now. So and the case is, can we detect when an instrument is playing? So we're going to load a bit of data, and this is I played some music over a backing track, and there's a full mix, and there's so because I played over it, I can also just mix down only the guitar, and I have the two separately. Now what I'm going to do, first of all, we have a big issue of detecting when is the guitar playing solo. So here, this is only the guitar part. And first of all, I cannot say if the guitar is below 0, I'm not playing. Because it means the guitar goes, the waveform goes through 0 all the time. So I cannot just say below some threshold, it's not working. So instead of that, I'm calculating the rolling RMSE. And when the rolling RMSE is dropping below some level, I'm going to gate it. So I'm going to stop saying the guitar is still playing. So if we just, if you look in this graph, if the time, the guitar is in blue, you see the original, so the mixed waveform in gray, and you see the rolling RMSE in the orange. And whenever the green line is just 1 or 0, whether I'm playing or not playing. So I can basically mask the signal with the zeros and the ones. So I'm going to multiply the signal with 0 when I'm not playing, or with 1 if I'm playing. And then we can actually hear the effect of the gate. So that it detects when it's not playing or not playing. Sometimes there's a little bit of a jitter, but that happens when that just happens. Now we're going to build a model, and we're again going to chop up in fragments of 0.1 seconds, and that's again going to be the time resolution. So I can either know I'm going to be playing the instrument or not within this time resolution. And for each fragment, we are going to detect whether the guitar is playing or not. So we have a short fragment, which is 0.1 seconds. Then we have the model, and we are going to predict playing or not playing, a Boolean. So this is how it looks like. So I'm taking an input over here with the fragment length, which is 0.1 second. Then I'm actually, one very nice thing about TensorFlow and Keras is that you can still apply some specific functions within Keras. So instead of first doing Fourier by hand before, I can also say, well, apply a Fourier somewhere in the middle of my network and calculate even the gradients of that operation. So you can have a look at what kind of transformations are still in TensorFlow, or that you can actually just do some nice things inside your model instead of in the pre-processing phase. So here I'm actually doing the Fourier inside the model with a lambda. And this is the output shape will be then the fragment will still be the fragment length. And finally, I'm going to put on that a dense layer that's just going to have with the sigmoid activation, so it's either a 0 or a 1, and I'm going to predict whether I'm playing or not. So the model then, you see, this is the time domain, the wave function, this is the frequency domain, like the stripes, and then finally, yes or no. So actually, the nice thing about it is we can actually listen to it and watch at the same time. So I made, does anyone know MoviePy? It's definitely a package that you want to check out, because there's a very nice function where you can just make a frame given some time that you some value, some x, and then you can render it to a movie very easily. So I use this for these movies. What we're going to see is we have the waveform, and we are going to have a sliding window going across the waveform. And as the waveform progresses, I'm going to light up blue whenever I detected the note was playing. Then we have also the green line with the gating, whether I'm playing or not, as well as the prediction in orange. It's a bit slow. Okay, I'll open it differently. Orange is the prediction on the right, waveform on the left. Let's say there's a slight delay between the Bluetooth speaker and the still we have it lighting up gray. Okay. And then I'll stop it, because otherwise you'll hear me fucking up. That's it.
Okay, I think we've got a few minutes for questions. Okay, so you first.
Hey, thanks for your talk. I'm really curious, how fast can the network figure this stuff out? Like, would it be applicable for music visualization? Because with electronic music, it's fairly easy to do stuff, beat detection, etc. But classic music or acoustic is kind of hard. So would this be useful for that case?
Ooh, that's well with music. So people have a very good internal clock for when it comes to, they have a very good internal time resolution when it comes to music perception. So you need to be really, 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 you have to have a very short latency. So for instance, already the rendering, you need to be able to do it within like order of 16th of milliseconds. And so I don't know if a lot of people probably did see a little bit of a desync between the USB. Well, already there, humans are very perceptible to small latencies. So I think in principle it would be possible, but it's not going to be easy. Well, for what we see right now, I don't know actually. But I know that latencies of 20 milliseconds can become noticeable already, especially when you're making the music. So if you're playing an instrument and you have a latency of 20 milliseconds, you'll already start noticing it. But that's when you're playing it. If you're just listening to it and seeing it, of course, with electronic music, you can already pre-process it probably, right? So you can pre-render it, I suppose. But for real live music, where there's people playing live on stage with no backing track or whatever, then it's going to be hard, I suppose.
Okay, any other questions?
So how do you deal with more complexities like jazz, where you get key changes?
Well, key changes is
I'll repeat that for the people.
how to deal with more complex music like jazz, where there's key changes. In principle, so now I've really tuned my model to the complexity that I have right now. So I've only my hidden state has only 14 neurons, which is exactly the number of notes that I can draw from the random walk. In principle, you can still enlarge it to like the complete spectrum of all different possible notes on a piano, for instance. But then, okay, jazz music has still a lot of the note gets bent up, like it goes higher slowly, so it's in between, or vibrato, stuff like that. You have a lot of, additional things that color the music that you still need to be able to write down, maybe, or not, or maybe can even harm you. For instance, vibrato could maybe be transcribed as higher, lower, and stuff like that. So it's going to be difficult, but I suppose that actually the thing that I tried here right now is actually to make it simple and then build it up. So I'm actually not intending to stop it at this point and slowly maybe get some jazz going on.
I think we have time for one more question.
So they are published. So if you look at my GitHub and then my name, Marcel Raas, you'll find it. And there's also the whole synthesizer thing is also there. It could be cleaned up a bit, but that's so. Okay.
Okay, are there any other questions? Or if not, I'd like to thank Marcel. Give him a round of applause.